pushed his cleaning cart through the lower corridors of Station Nexus 7, the wheels squeaking against the metal floor. The sound echoed in the empty hallway, but nobody turned to look. Nobody ever looked at. He had been working on this station for 3 years now. 3 years of cleaning floors, fixing broken pipes, and scrubbing waste from recycling units. 3 years of being invisible. The station floated in the darkness between two galaxies, serving as a meeting place for dozens of alien species. Merchants came here to trade. Diplomats came here to argue. Soldiers came here to rest. And humans came here to do the jobs nobody else wanted. Stopped his cart near a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of light years away, was Earth. His mother still lived there in a small apartment in Singapore. Every month sent her credits from his paycheck. It was not much, but it was enough to keep her comfortable. A group of merchants walked past him. They were tall creatures with green scales and yellow eyes. Their silk robes cost more than would earn in 10 years. One of them bumped into his cart and sent his cleaning supplies falling to the floor. They did not apologize. He did not even slow down. He simply made a sound of disgust and kept walking, talking to his companions about a shipment of rare metals. Bent down and picked up his supplies. He did not say anything. He had learned long ago that speaking up only made things worse. In the eyes of the galaxy, humans were nothing special. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Compared to species that had been sailing between stars for thousands of years, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. The Galactic Council had given Earth a seat, but it was a small seat in the back corner, and nobody listened when human representatives spoke. So humans took the jobs they could get: cleaning, maintenance, cargo loading, the work that kept stations running but earned no respect. Finished picking up his supplies and continued down the corridor. He passed a group of diplomats standing outside a conference room. They were insect-like creatures with 4 arms and large compound eyes. They spoke in clicks and whistles, discussing some trade agreement. One of them noticed and said something to the others. They all made a sound that might have been laughter. Understood every word. They had called him a dirt walker and joked that humans were only good for cleaning up after real species. He did not let his face show anything. He just kept walking. This was something the aliens did not know about. In 3 years, he had taught himself 6 alien languages. He listened to conversations as he cleaned. He watched alien news broadcasts during his breaks. He read whatever he could find on the station's public databases. The aliens spoke freely around him because they thought he could not understand. They thought he was too stupid to learn. This mistake gave more information than any spy could gather. He knew which diplomats were secretly working against their own government. He knew which merchants were cheating on their taxes. He knew that the station commander's assistant was having an affair with a security officer. Knowledge was power, and had a lot of knowledge. He also knew the station better than anyone. Every corridor, every maintenance shaft, every hidden passage. He knew where the security cameras had blind spots. He knew which doors had broken locks that nobody had bothered to fix. He knew how to move from one end of the station to the other without being seen. None of this had any real purpose, was not a spy or a rebel. He was just a man who liked to learn, who refused to let his mind go dull even if his job was simple. But he kept everything filed away in his memory, just in case. Tonight, that habit would prove more valuable than he could have imagined. Was cleaning a corridor in the diplomatic section when he heard footsteps approaching. He pushed his cart into a side passage and waited. He had learned to stay out of the way when important people were moving. 2 figures walked past. One was Admiral Hose, a high-ranking military officer, had seen him many times at official functions. The other figure wore a dark hood that hid their face. They stopped just around the corner, not knowing was there. "The codes," the hooded figure said in a mechanical voice. "Do you have them?" Admiral Hose handed over a small data chip. The defense grid access codes. As promised, with these, your fleet can disable our shields in seconds. Felt his heart beat faster. He pressed himself against the wall and did not breathe. Excellent, the hooded figure said. The Dominion of Ash thanks you for your service. Your payment has been transferred. Just make sure I am safely off the station before your attack begins, Hose said. I have no desire to die with the rest of these fools. The hooded figure made a sound that might have been a laugh. Then they walked away in different directions. Stood frozen in the shadows. He had just witnessed treason. An admiral had sold out the entire station to an enemy empire. For a long moment he did not know what to do. Who could he tell? Who would believe him? He was just a human janitor. Admiral Hose was one of the most powerful officers on the station. Then he heard footsteps again. Hose was coming back. The admiral rounded the corner and stopped when he saw standing there with his cleaning cart. For one terrible second their eyes met, was sure he was going to die. Then Hose laughed. Just a human, he said, speaking to himself. They are barely sentient. Who would he tell? Who would believe him? He shook his head and walked away, still laughing. Let out a slow breath. His hands were shaking, but he kept his face calm until the admiral was gone. He filed this memory away with all the others. Someday, somehow, it might matter. He went back to pushing his cart, cleaning floors and fixing pipes, invisible as always. 3 hours later, the alarm started screaming. Ran to the nearest window and looked out. His blood went cold. A fleet of black warships was dropping out of hyperspace, surrounding the station like wolves around wounded prey. There were dozens of them, each one bristling with weapons. A message began playing over every speaker on the station. The voice was cold and mechanical. This is the Dominion of Ash. You have 12 hours to surrender. If you do not, every living being on this station will die. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. Choose wisely. Watch the warships taking their positions, blocking every escape route. His quiet life had just ended. He simply did not know it yet. Panic spread through Station Nexus 7 like fire through dry grass. Aliens ran through the corridors, screaming and pushing. The wealthy merchants who had walked with such pride now scrambled to reach the escape pods, only to find them locked down by station security. There was no escape. The Dominion fleet had the station surrounded. Watched from a maintenance walkway high above the central atrium. Below him, thousands of aliens crowded together, their voices mixing into a roar of fear. Security officers tried to keep order, but they were failing. The station commander, a massive named, stood on a platform and spoke through an amplifier. His species looked like walking boulders, 8 feet tall with gray stone-like skin. His voice boomed across the atrium. Everyone remain calm. We are in communication with the Dominion. We are seeking a peaceful solution. But could see the truth on his face. There would be no peaceful solution. The Dominion of Ash did not negotiate. They conquered. Every species in the galaxy knew their reputation. Climbed down from the walkway and made his way through the crowd. He had work to do. The station's waste systems would not clean themselves, siege or no siege. And right now, staying busy felt better than standing still and being afraid. As he walked, he listened. A group of military officers huddled near a pillar, speaking in low voices. They did not notice passing with his cleaning cart. The defense grid has a weakness in Sector 7, one officer said. If they find it, they can punch through our shields in minutes. How would they find it? Another asked. That information is classified. Kept walking, but his jaw tightened. He knew exactly how the Dominion would find that weakness. Admiral Hose had sold it to them. He should tell someone, but who? The Admiral was one of the station's senior officers, was a janitor. It would be his word against one of the most powerful in the sector. He needed proof. For the next few hours worked. He cleaned corridors. He fixed a broken water pipe in the refugee section. He smiled and nodded at aliens who did not smile back. And he watched. He saw Admiral Hose enter his quarters and not come out. He saw the Admiral's guards standing at the door, turning away anyone who approached. He saw servants carrying boxes out of the quarters, boxes that looked heavy with valuables. The Admiral was preparing to run. Filed this information away. When the time was right, he would use it. Night came, though on a space station. Night was just a dimming of the lights. Was cleaning a corridor in the lower worker district when he heard the explosion. The floor shook beneath his feet. Alarms began screaming. Emergency lights flashed red. A voice came over the speakers. Breach in Sector 12. Dominion boarding party has entered the station. All security forces respond. But knew that Sector 12 was nowhere near where he stood. He was in Sector 15, the worker district, where the poor and unimportant lived. Security would not come here quickly. They would protect the wealthy sections first. He heard screaming ahead. Ran toward the sound, leaving his cart behind. He rounded a corner and stopped. A group of alien families huddled against a wall. There were children with their parents, a few human workers, an old female who could barely walk. They were crying, trembling, holding each other. At the other end of the corridor, 6 Dominion soldiers advanced. They wore black armor covered in ash-gray markings. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy. "No witnesses," the squad leader said. "Kill them all." There was no time to think. Grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and threw it as hard as he could. It hit the squad leader in the helmet and bounced away. The soldier stumbled, surprised. The others turned their weapons toward. "Run," shouted at the families. "Follow me." He did not wait to see if they obeyed. He sprinted to a maintenance panel on the wall and ripped it open. Inside was a control interface for the station's atmospheric systems. Had spent 3 years learning every system on this station. Now that knowledge would save lives or get him killed. He typed in commands faster than he had ever typed before. The ventilation system in the corridor groaned and then roared. A blast of air shot through the hallway, hitting the Dominion soldiers like a giant hand. They staggered, struggling to keep their balance. One fell to his knees. "This way," grabbed the old female and helped her into a maintenance shaft. "Everyone inside, now." The family scrambled after him, pulled a child into the shaft just as the soldiers recovered and opened fire. Energy blasts scorched the wall where the child had been standing a second before. Sealed the shaft door behind them. "Move," he said. "Stay quiet, follow me." He led them through the darkness. The maintenance shafts twisted and turned, a maze that no one without years of experience could navigate. The Dominion soldiers tried to follow, but they did not know the way. Heard them cursing and banging on walls in the distance. For 2 hours he guided the families through the station's hidden passages. When soldiers blocked one path, he found another. When someone got tired, he carried them. When a child started to cry, he told them stories about Earth, about oceans and forests and cities full of light. Finally, they emerged in a shelter deep in the station's core. Other refugees had gathered there. Medical teams were treating the wounded. Helped the old female sit down. She grabbed his hand and looked at him with eyes full of tears. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you, human." It was the first time in 3 years that anyone on the station had thanked him for anything. Nodded and slipped away. There was more work to do. He made his way back toward the Admiral's quarters. The station was chaos now, with fires burning and soldiers fighting in a dozen sections. No one paid attention to a maintenance worker moving through the shadows. Found a communication terminal in an empty office. He knew the station's systems well enough to access the security logs. It took him 20 minutes, but he found what he was looking for. A recording of Admiral Ho's meeting with the hooded figure. Clear video of the data chip being handed over. Audio of the Admiral discussing the defense grid codes. Proof. Downloaded everything to a chip and put it in his pocket. He looked out a window at the Dominion fleet. Explosions flashed in the darkness as the station's defense guns fired at the enemy ships, but the defenders were losing. The Dominion knew exactly where to hit them, because a traitor had told them. Had spent 3 years being invisible, 3 years being nothing, 3 years watching and learning and waiting. Now it was time to speak. He turned and walked toward the command center, where the station's leaders were fighting a battle they did not know was already lost, unless someone told them the truth. The command center was the heart of Station Nexus 7. It sat at the top of the central tower, protected by thick walls and heavy doors. Only the most important people were allowed inside: officers, diplomats, leaders. Not janitors. Stood outside the main door, covered in dirt and dried blood that was not his own. 2 security guards blocked his path, their weapons raised. "Worker levels are that way," one guard said, pointing down the corridor. "Get back to your section." "I need to speak with Commander," said. "It is urgent." The guards looked at each other and laughed. "A human wants to speak with the commander," one said. "Did you hear that? Maybe he wants to give advice on cleaning toilets." "Did not move. There is a traitor on this station. I have proof. If you do not let me in, everyone here will die." The laughter stopped. The guards stared at him. "You are crazy," the first guard said. "Get out of here before we arrest you." "Then arrest me," said. "Take me inside and let me speak. If I am wrong, you can throw me in a cell. But if I am right and you turn me away, you will die with everyone else." The guards hesitated. Something in his voice, something calm and certain, made them pause. Before they could decide, the door behind them opened. Commander stepped out, his stone-like face showing exhaustion. "What is this noise?" he demanded. "Sir, this human worker claims he has information about a traitor," one guard said. "We were about to remove him." Looked at, his eyes moved over the dirty clothes, the tired face, the small human body that looked so weak compared to his own massive form. "You are the one they call the Ghost," said slowly. "The maintenance worker who is never seen but somehow fixes everything." Blinked in surprise. "You know about me." "I know everything that happens on my station," studied him for a long moment. "You have never asked for anything in 3 years. You have never complained. You have never caused trouble. And now you come to my door during a battle claiming you know about a traitor." He stepped aside and gestured toward the open door. "You have 5 minutes. Do not waste them." Walked into the command center. It was larger than he had expected, filled with screens and control panels and officers rushing between stations. A giant window showed the battle outside, Dominion ships firing at the station's weakening shields. Every face in the room turned toward. He saw confusion, disgust, anger. What was a human worker doing in this sacred place? Admiral Hose stood near the main tactical display. When he saw, his yellow eyes widened for just a second before his face became calm again. "Commander," Hose said smoothly, "why have you brought this creature in here? We are in the middle of a crisis." "He claims to have information," said. "I want to hear it." Walked to the center of the room. He could feel everyone staring at him. His heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. He began to speak in high tongue, the formal language used by their nobility. Every officer in the room froze. They had never heard a human speak their language, let alone speak it perfectly. "3 days ago," said, "I witnessed Admiral Hose pass classified defense codes to an agent of the Dominion of Ash. He sold the location of our shield weakness in Sector 7. He sold the patrol schedules of our security forces. He sold us all for money." The room erupted. Officers shouted. Hose slammed his fist on a console. "This is insanity," the Admiral screamed. "You would believe a human, a cleaning worker. He is lying. He is too stupid to even understand what he claims to have seen. Switched to a diplomatic cadence, a formal speech pattern used in their legal proceedings. Under Article 7 of the Galactic Security Charter, I present evidence for formal review. He pulled the data chip from his pocket and held it up. This contains security footage of the meeting, audio recordings, transaction records showing payment transferred to an account registered to Admiral Hose. The evidence is complete. The officer stepped forward, her compound eyes fixed on the chip. That is a proper legal submission format. How does a maintenance worker know our protocols? I listen, said simply. I watch, I learn. For 3 years, everyone on the station has spoken freely around me because they thought I was too primitive to understand. They were wrong. Commander took the chip and inserted it into a display console. The room fell silent as the evidence played. They watched Ho's hand over the chip to the hooded figure. They heard him discuss prices for betrayal. They saw everything. Hose backed away toward the door. This is fake. This is a human trick you cannot trust. Arrest him, said quietly. Guards moved forward. Hose screamed and struggled, but they dragged him away. His curses echoed down the corridor until they faded to silence. Turn 2. You have exposed a traitor, but that does not win us this battle. The Dominion still has our codes. They still know our weaknesses. We are still going to lose. No, said, we are not. He walked to the tactical display. Officers moved aside, too shocked to stop him. I have been watching the Dominion fleet since they arrived, said. I have mapped their patrol patterns from the maintenance windows on the station's outer hull. I have identified their communication frequencies by listening to the static on our repair channels. I have found weaknesses. He began pointing at the display, highlighting ships and positions. Their flagship stays at the rear because their commander is cautious. Their supply ships cluster together for protection, which means one explosion can damage many. They rotate their patrol craft every 90 minutes, leaving a gap in coverage at these points. He kept talking. Strategies, plans, ideas, things he had figured out while cleaning floors and fixing pipes and being invisible. The officers listened in silence. Their expressions changed from confusion to surprise to something like respect. This is remarkable, one general said. This is better analysis than our own intelligence teams have produced. Your intelligence teams do not clean the observation decks, said. They do not hear soldiers complaining about their patrol schedules. They do not see supply crates being loaded and count how many there are. He shrugged. I do. Commander studied the display for a long moment. Then he looked at with new eyes. What is your rank, human? He asked. I clean waste recyclers, Commander. I have no rank. Not anymore, placed a massive hand on shoulder. I am giving you provisional tactical authority. You will advise our defense teams. You will help coordinate our counterattack. He paused. Can you do this? Looked at the display. He looked at the fleet waiting to destroy them. He looked at the room full of aliens who had ignored him for 3 years. Yes, he said, I can. From the doorway, Admiral Hose screamed one final curse before being dragged out of sight. You cannot give authority to a human. They are nothing. They are nobody. Did not turn around. He was already working, already planning, already fighting the battle that everyone else had thought was lost. He was nobody. But nobody was about to become very important. Refused to command from the command center. Instead, he set up in a maintenance hub deep in the station's core. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Control panels lined the walls. It smelled like engine grease and recycled air. You can see the whole station from up there, Commander had said, pointing at the command center's tower. Why would you choose this place? Because the enemy expects our leaders to be up there, replied. They will target that tower, and because from here I can control the systems that will actually win this fight. Had frowned, but he had agreed. now stood in front of a wall of screens watching the battle unfold. Officers from different species stood nearby, waiting for orders. They still looked uncomfortable taking commands from a human janitor, but they had seen the evidence. They had heard his plan. They were desperate. Dominion forces are breaching Deck 14, a officer reported. 50 soldiers, heavy weapons. Studied the map. Seal bulkheads 7 through 12. Open ventilation shaft 6 alpha. Then release cleaning solvent C7 into that corridor. The officer hesitated. Cleaning solvent. C7 is highly flammable, said. The Dominion armor has exposed power cells on the back. When the solvent touches those cells, they will spark. When they spark, he made an explosion gesture with his hands. The officer's compound eyes widened. She typed the commands. 2 minutes later, an explosion rocked Deck 14. 43 Dominion soldiers died without a single defender firing a shot. This was strategy. He did not have enough soldiers to fight the Dominion directly, but he had something better. He had the station itself. Every corridor became a trap. Every system became a weapon. The Dominion soldiers were elite warriors with advanced armor and training, but they did not know that the pressure locks could be triggered remotely. They did not know that the artificial gravity could be reversed in specific sections. They did not know that the fire suppression foam hardened like concrete when mixed with certain chemicals. Knew all of these things. He had spent 3 years fixing them. But he also knew that systems alone would not win. He needed people. He picked up a communication device and switched to the worker frequency, the channel that maintenance crews and cleaners and cargo loaders used to talk to each other. "This is," he said. "Some of you know me. Most of you have worked beside me. I know you are scared. I know you are hiding, but I need your help." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The station's defenders cannot be everywhere, but we can. We know the hidden passages. We know the broken doors and the blind spots. We know this station better than any soldier because we built it with our own hands. He heard static, silence. He wondered if anyone was listening. Then a voice came back, a human woman from the cargo docks. "What do you need us to do?" More voices followed. A maintenance worker, a food service technician. Humans, aliens, all the people who had been ignored and forgotten, all the people who had been treated like they were nothing. "Guide the defenders through the maintenance tunnels," said. "Report enemy positions. Help evacuate civilians. Do what you have always done, keep this station running. But now do it to save lives." They answered, dozens of them, then hundreds. Directed them like pieces on a game board. A cargo loader guided a security team through a shortcut that let them ambush a Dominion squad. A cleaning crew blocked a corridor with heavy equipment, forcing enemies into a kill zone. A cook used his knowledge of the kitchen ventilation to flood a captured section with smoke, blinding the invaders. The Dominion had expected to fight soldiers. They had not expected to fight janitors and cooks and dock workers. They had not expected to fight people who knew every centimeter of the station they were trying to conquer. Hour after hour, the battle continued. The Dominion pushed forward and was pushed back. Their numbers shrank while the defenders held on. But it was not enough. The enemy still controlled too much of the station. Their fleet still surrounded them. Time was running out. Stared at the tactical display, looking for an answer. "Their flagship," he said quietly. "That is the key. If we can disable their command ship, their fleet will fall into confusion." "The flagship is behind their entire fleet," an officer said. "We cannot reach it." Was silent for a moment, then he looked up. "We have garbage scows, yes. The automated ships that carry waste to the recycling stations." "Yes, but those are unarmed. They are just trash carriers." "Exactly," smiled for the first time since the battle began. "And the Dominion sensors will see them as exactly that, just trash, not worth shooting at." 20 minutes later, a garbage scow launched from the station's lower dock. Its cargo hold was filled with 30 volunteers, security officers, maintenance workers, and himself. The scow drifted through the battle, ignored by both sides, just floating debris, just garbage, not a threat. They reached the flagship and attached to its hull, cut through an airlock using a welding torch meant for repairing pipes. They were inside. The ship's corridors were dark and filled with strange sounds. Dominion crew members rushed past, focused on the battle, not expecting enemies inside their own vessel. Led his team deeper into the ship. He was not here to destroy it. He was here for something else. "Prisoner section," he whispered, pointing at a sign in the Dominion language. "This way." They found the cells quickly. Inside were aliens from a dozen species, captured in previous Dominion conquests, soldiers and officers from worlds that had fallen to the Empire. They looked up with hopeless eyes as opened their doors. "We are from Station Nexus 7, said. "We are here to get you out." One prisoner stepped forward. He was old, his body covered in scars, but he stood straight and his eyes were sharp. His uniform was torn and faded but could still read the markings. Fleet General of the Galactic Concordat, the highest-ranking military officer in known space. He had disappeared 2 years ago, and everyone had assumed he was dead. Looked at his maintenance uniform, looked at the welding torch in his hand. "You led this rescue?" the general asked. "Yes, sir." "You planned the attack on the garbage scow?" "Yes, sir." "And you are a maintenance worker?" Shrugged. "I was, sir. It has been a strange day." Something changed in the old general's eyes. Not pity or amusement. Something deeper, something like recognition. "Get us weapons," said. "We have a battle to finish." They armed the prisoners with equipment taken from fallen Dominion soldiers. 30 had come aboard the garbage scow. Now they were over 100 strong. Took command of the freed prisoners while guided them through the ship. They fought their way to the engine room and disabled the flagship's main power. They fought to the bridge and captured the Dominion commander. When the flagship went dark and stopped transmitting orders, the rest of the enemy fleet fell into chaos. Without coordination, they became easy targets. The station's defenders, sensing victory, pushed forward with everything they had. Within 2 hours, the remaining Dominion ships were retreating, jumping to hyperspace, running from a battle they had expected to win easily. Stood on the bridge of the captured flagship watching them go. His body ached. His hands were burned from the welding torch. He had not slept in over 30 hours. General stood beside him. "What is your name, soldier?" the general asked. "Sir, and I am not a soldier. I am a janitor." Was silent for a long moment. "No," he finally said, "you are not." Did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing at all. The battle was over, but something told him that his life was just beginning. 3 days had passed since the battle ended. Station Nexus 7 was still standing, though it carried scars from the fighting. Broken windows had been sealed. Damaged corridors had been blocked off. Bodies had been buried in space, given to the stars with proper ceremony. The Dominion fleet had fled, but everyone knew they would return someday. For now, though, there was peace. And there was something else. Something that surprised more than the battle itself. Gratitude. Aliens who had ignored him for 3 years now nodded when he passed. Some even spoke to him. A merchant had stopped him in a corridor to say thank you. A family had invited him to dinner. The old female he had saved during the siege had wept and called him her grandson. It was strange, it was uncomfortable, did not know what to do with any of it. He had tried to go back to his old job. He had picked up his cleaning cart and pushed it down a corridor, just like he had done for 3 years. But Commander had found him and taken the cart away. "You saved this station," had said. "You are not going back to cleaning floors." "I like cleaning floors," had replied. "It is simple, it makes sense." Nothing is simple anymore. had put a massive hand on his shoulder. "The galaxy is watching you now, you cannot hide." Had not liked the sound of that, but he had accepted it. He did not have much choice. Now he stood in the command center, wearing a clean uniform for the first time since the battle began. It was not a military uniform. He had refused all offers of rank. But it was neat and presentable, and someone had added a small badge showing the station's symbol. The room was full of officers and diplomats from dozens of species. They had come from across the sector to see the station that had survived the Dominion attack, to meet the commander who had led the defense, and to see the human who had made it possible. Stood near the back trying to stay out of the way. He was not good at ceremonies. He did not like being watched. General stood at the front of the room. The old warrior looked better than he had on the flagship. His scars were still there. His body still showed the marks of 2 years in captivity, but his eyes burned with life again. He wore his old uniform, repaired and cleaned, the medals of his long career shining on his chest. He was the most famous military leader in the galaxy. He had won battles that had shaped history. He had commanded fleets larger than most nations could imagine. And he had asked to speak today, specifically about. "3 days ago," began, his voice filling the room, "I was a prisoner. I had been captured by the Dominion of Ash 2 years ago during the Battle of Nebula. My fleet was destroyed. My crew was killed. I was taken in chains to the enemy flagship, where they kept me alive as a trophy." The room was silent. Everyone knew the story of his disappearance. Everyone had mourned him as dead. "For 2 years I sat in a cell and waited to die. I had given up hope. I had accepted that my story was over." Paused. "I was wrong." He turned and looked directly at. Every eye in the room followed his gaze. "A man came to my cell. He was not a soldier. He was not an officer. He was a maintenance worker from a species that most of the galaxy considers primitive. He had no weapons except a welding torch. He had no training except what he had taught himself. He had no authority except what he had earned that day." Began walking through the crowd toward. Officers and diplomats stepped aside to let him pass. "This man did not rescue me because he was ordered to. He did not fight because he wanted glory. He fought because he saw people suffering and decided to help. He led because he saw a problem and knew how to solve it. He risked his life because he believed that every life has value, even the lives of aliens who had treated him like dirt for 3 years." Stopped in front of. They stood face to face, the legendary general and the former janitor. "In my career, I have commanded millions of soldiers. I have met warriors from every species in the galaxy. I have seen courage and brilliance in countless forms." His voice grew quiet, but somehow it still reached every corner of the room. "This man is the most naturally gifted tactical mind I have ever encountered. And more than that, he is the finest example of leadership I have witnessed in decades." Felt his face grow hot. He wanted to disappear. He wanted to be back in his maintenance shaft, fixing pipes where no one could see him. Said formally, "Step forward." Took 1 step. His legs felt weak. Reached up and removed something from his own uniform. It was a small pin shaped like a star. Recognized it from history books. It was the Concordat star, the highest honor the Galactic Concordat could give. Had worn it for 40 years. The general pinned it to his chest. Then Fleet General, hero of 17 campaigns, conqueror of the nebula, legend of the Galactic Concordat, stepped back. He straightened his spine. He brought his hand up in a formal salute. And he spoke a single word. "Sir." The room gasped. In Concordat military tradition, a superior officer calling a subordinate sir meant only one thing. It was the highest recognition of merit. It meant that rank could not contain worth. It meant that the person being addressed had proven themselves beyond any title or position. It had not happened in over a century. Stared at the general. His throat was tight. He did not know what to say. "General," he finally managed, "I am not a soldier. I am not an officer. I just did not want anyone else to be treated like they were nobody." His face changed. It was not quite a smile, but it was close. "That," the old general said, "is precisely why I called you, sir." The room erupted. Officers cheered. Diplomats applauded. Species that had barely acknowledged humans a week ago now looked at with wonder in their eyes. 1 year later, still refused a formal military rank, but he served as an advisor to the Galactic Concordat's Strategic Council. He traveled between worlds, helping to build defenses, training officers, preparing the galaxy for the war that everyone knew was coming. A journalist from Earth found him during a visit to a distant station. She asked him why he kept working when he could retire as a hero. Thought about the question for a long time before answering. "Because somewhere out there," he said, "there is another kid mopping floors on a station where nobody knows his name. He is watching. He is learning. He is being told that he does not matter, that his species is primitive, that he will never be anything important." He looked out a window at the stars. And one day, someone is going to make the mistake of thinking he is nobody too. The journalist published the interview. It spread across 100 worlds. It was translated into 1,000 languages. It became famous not because of what it done, but because of what he believed. That every life has value, that no one is truly nobody, that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. The Dominion of Ash was still out there. They were rebuilding, planning, waiting for another chance. But so was the galaxy, and now they knew something they had not known before. Humans were never just anything. They were watching, they were learning, they were waiting. And when the time came, they would rise.